There's not many people on. There may not be many people on this show tonight because I've been told by Inky that there's another show streaming at the same time. So
there's lots of stuff going on at the moment, isn't there?
But I'm not going to stop just because they've all decided to take my spot. So I'm still going to be here.
State your claim.
That's it.
Make use of it.
All right, we're live, everybody. So say hi to everyone. There's a few people in the chat room. 888 Berg's there.
Hi, everyone.
So I think a few people will probably pop in and out during the show. Yeah, so we've got a bit on today, this morning, from wherever you are. We're going to be looking at, obviously, audio interfaces, which is what the topic is. And I'm also going to be looking at the new Novation Peak Wavetable Editor that they've given us for free, which is freaking awesome. Just to let that word out. It's absolutely incredible. So, yeah, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek.
Yeah, please do. I'd be very keen on saying that.
How do I change tabs on this thing? There we go. Whoa, what's that noise? Let's do this. All right, so that's what we're going to have a little sneak peek at a bit later. That's the new Novation Peak Wavetable Editor that they've given us. And it's got this really cool live mode button here, which I haven't got turned on yet, but you turn it on, it goes all yellow or green or whatever. And whatever you do instantly happens on the peak. So yeah, that'll be interesting. So we'll go check that out later. And we're also going to be checking out, now I've just brought just a collection of some audio interfaces here. So that's your, and Andy, that's your mic whistling if you want to know. Andy.
That's my mic whistling.
Yeah, that's yours. That's all right.
Sounds like my.
Now, so what it might mean is you might have a speaker nearby, or you might have some headphones near it nearby. So that's all that would be. Anyway, so getting back to what I was saying, what we're going to do is look at audio interfaces, and we're going to look at them for different reasons. We're going to look at mixers that have got USB interfaces in them. We're going to look at multi-input interfaces. We're going to look at things that you may not realize are audio interfaces. We're going to look at the standard audio interface that you buy, that everyone, like the Roland Rubix or whatever. And we're also going to look at legacy audio interfaces. Look at that one. The Steinberg MI4.
That's going back a bit.
Yeah, that one goes back to the early noughties. So we'll have a look at all that stuff. And yeah, anyway, back to reality.
I was just going to say, just on that other screen, Rans, you've still got the Easter egg marquee going.
Oh yeah, I haven't changed it. Let's change that. Well, let's not even worry about it.
Fair enough. It's an Easter egg.
Yeah, I'll just say the audio interfaces and Novation Peak Wavetable Editor space. That's still your mic, Andy, whistling. Let's just try that again.
I think that's my computer.
Yeah.
I think you can hear the fan on my computer whirring away.
Well, I can mute you if it happens, and we can unmute you when it stops. That's no problem at all. I'll just have to be quick with the mouse. I was going to say quick hello to the chatties before we... This is just the informal hello. So, quick informal hello to the chatties. G'day to Mr. Mac. And Sonic Neutronic. 888 Berg I said hello to before. Yeah, so there's a few people already. Good to see the real people here. The real people. You guys are the special guys. That's who counts. That's it. All right, now, I think we're pretty good. Let's just do a mic check with Darren.
1, 2, 1, 2. Did you get me?
Yeah, you're good. Let me just check. I just got a message from someone. No, we're good. Let's check the stream health quickly. Okay, that's fine. Andy, let's just do a mic check on you. Just again.
Yeah. Can you hear that? Is it coming through all right?
Yeah. And the guys in the chat can let us know if there's any problems. And Andrew, mic check for you.
Hey. Yeah, just testing. 1, 2.
Okay. I think we're good. Guys in the chat, let us know if you're happy with those mic levels. This is what all the pre-show's about. Just what's the word? Kneading out all the nasties. What needs sampling? Oh, yes.
The sound.
Yeah. Yeah. I was doing a lot of sampling during the week. I went down to a train station and took the Zoom HS6 or H6 or whatever it's called with me, and just sat it on a little tiny little camera tripod, like a little tiny little desk one. Just sat it there and just waited for a train to go past, open its doors, close its doors, and went past. And I came back home to listen to it, see how it sounded.
Are you allowed to do that?
I don't know why that sounds good. It just sounds amazing. Well, Jean-Michel Jarre did it in the 1980s with his magnetic fields track. So I figure if he can do it in the 80s, I can do it in the 2000s. No one told me off.
I used the train sample on the last couple of tracks that I did. But are you allowed to actually just wander out to the train station?
Well, I did. And bad luck if anyone didn't like it. No, I'm not a train spotter. Sonic Neutronic. We don't really get train spotters here in Australia as much as in the UK. I know that that's a really big thing over there. Probably because there's so many train lines and networks and things. It's probably just really intriguing. But over here, you get like one train track, and then there's about 3,000 kilometres, and you might actually have that train track connect to another one. So it's not really worthwhile for you to travel 3,000 kilometres to see a train junction happen. That's Australia for you. But yeah, it's good fun travelling on it, though.
I could never ever understand why anybody wanted to watch trains anyway.
I don't understand that either.
Why write down a number of a train?
I wouldn't even know how to do that.
It could be worse because people tram spot.
There's Sonic Neutronic. You're cruising, mate. I'm going to find where you live. We're going to hunt you down, mister. How are we doing? We got 5 minutes before the show starts. Yeah. It's not many people on, but I knew that. I knew it would be a bit disappointing.
Franz, can I just ask?
Yeah.
Can I just ask you how I get to see the chat
on YouTube?
Yeah, do I have to have the YouTube screen open?
So what some people do is they might have a phone in their hand, and they just have the video playing muted, and they just look at the phone and have a look at the chat of the stream.
Yeah, see, Lisa does that sometimes.
Yeah. So
I've actually got.
Or if you've got two monitors. Too. Yeah, you can pop the chat out.
Andrew.
Hello, Wayne. There is a little pop out thing, isn't there?
I pop out the chat and have it off to the side.
There's like 3 dots, and you click on it and it says pop out chat.
And it pops it out into a separate window, and then you close the original window.
And then you can just move that window to somewhere else.
Around.
Ooh.
Get that one.
I'm going to have to be quick on that mute button. Right. Okay, so about 5 minutes before the show starts, and we're just saying hi, everyone. YouTube was complaining before that I was streaming at 3.8 megabits per second. It wanted me to stream at 4.5, but they don't realise that I've got to bring in all the callers at the same time and then send them all back out. Wow, that mic is not playing well for you, Andy.
I need headphones.
Has he got?
you definitely don't, Andy? You don't have any speakers near your computer at all turned on. And if you do, you should be wearing headphones for this. That probably would be the better way to go about it.
Is he listening? Yeah, is he listening back
I
from
actually
speakers?
think what you're picking up is my mic. It's
Right.
just the sound of the computer. Give me a second.
How's he hearing us though? Is he listening to us through the speakers?
Have you got a set of headphones on in your ears there? Is that how you're listening?
Just come do the sound of.
It's definitely feeding back from something.
Yeah, so if you're not listening, you need to listen to this and mute your computer audio. That would probably solve it.
Right.
We shouldn't have that feedback anymore.
Can you still just hear a
But you
whining
can't hear.
sound?
No, we're good. We can't hear anything you're in, except we can hear you, of course.
Is that work now?
I reckon it's good now. Yep.
All right. Sorry about that.
If you can hear a whining sound, it's probably the wife. Oh no, it's doing it again!
Oh no.
Oh, maybe he leant close though. He might have leant too close to the to the mic or something.
I've got to lean right back like this.
You might have to. If it's still doing it, we don't know what's causing it. We'll just have to work with it. It's one of those things. We've got 3 minutes before the show starts. Anyone else popped in?
You said there was quite a few people streaming or something.
Well, there's that whatchamacallit on what's it called? Super Booth.
Super Booth.
And because they're not actually having a super booth this year, they're doing like a virtual super booth, and so just about everybody is streaming right now, and and just because of that, only the people that love this show are here. Only the most important people are here right now. How you going, Michael B? Good to see you, mate. Just getting close to hitting the 10, just about hitting 10 a.m. over in the eastern part of the US, and what is it? Just about to hit 3 in the UK.
3 in the afternoon,
yeah, and it's just about to hit 10 p.m. here where I am, and where Andrew Me is, it's about to hit midnight.
Yeah.
Poor Andrew. So look at that. But just think about all the people in Hawaii right now, or New Zealand. Inky's just rocked up. All right, let's go.
Okay.
Whereabouts are you, Andy?
Sheffield.
All right, just
over the. Yeah.
I'm going to go across to the graphic, and we're about to hit the button. So. Privacy. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Saturday, and it's really, really awesome that you're here. In fact, it's actually even more awesome that you're here, because I know that a lot of people would normally be here and they're probably not. So those people that are, I actually really think it's awesome. And while we're here, we've also got some really awesome other people here, and we'll start with Darren on the top left. How you going, Darren? Nice to see you again. How's your week been?
Thank you. It's been okay. I've been doing some video footage for the track tomorrow, and then ended up with a puncture, so I had to walk about 5 miles back.
Right. Well, that's going to be interesting to see.
Keeps you going.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I want to make a massive, huge, warm welcome to someone who's been in the chat before, but now is the first time he's showing his face on the show, and it's Andy. How you going, mate? Nice to have you.
Hey everybody. Yeah, fine, thank you. It seems to be going all right. Thanks for helping me through all the technical difficulties in getting this sorted, because I am basically what my cousin calls a fossil when it comes to this sort of thing. So thanks for helping us out. And it's great to be here. Hi, everybody.
Fantastic. And obviously, never last but not least, Andrew. We've got two Andrews on the stream, so we'll have Andy and Andrew. But how you going, Andrew?
I'm good. We're doing stereophonic Andrews. It's left and right at the bottom, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to do all the two bass notes.
That's right. That's how it works. So, yeah, no, it's been a good week. I've been doing a lot of work this week trying to come up with some new MIDI messages, which has been fun. And then I've been rearranging the studio, which is code for I haven't had any creative ideas for a while, so this is a good idea to do some redesign.
Fantastic. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Nothing like a bit of redesign. Nothing like a bit of redesign.
Yes.
Well, we'd also like to say hello to the chatties that have jumped in, and so without further ado, we'll just quickly say hi to them. So we've got Inky, how are you going? Nice to see you. Axel Soft Music, 888 Berg, Finn, it's good to see you. Who else? Mr. Mac, Sonic Neutronic, Michael B, and Wayne Murray's there. And if I've forgotten anyone, like I say, each week, just throw a synth at your screen. Because that would just, in disgust. He's forgotten me. Just do it in disgust. But anyway, we've got an interesting show this week. Wigoo's just popped in. It's nice to see you, Wigoo. Hopefully you guys can stick around, and I'll try and get through all the segments nice and quick for you. So if you've got anywhere else to be, you can do that. But so this week the obvious topic is on audio interfaces, and the reason for it is I've been getting a lot of people ask me questions about it, and I thought we could just talk really beginner level about this stuff. For those who, a lot of us that are in this show and all of us that are in the chat aren't beginners, but just remember there's people that watch this and they watch this on the replay that are, so we can all be helpful. That's kind of the goal with it. And the other thing that we're going to show this week is the new Wavetable Editor for the Novation Peak or Summit. So those who have got a Novation Peak or Summit would be absolutely amazed to see this new Wavetable Editor that Novation have brought out. And it's a company that just keeps giving, isn't it? Isn't that amazing? It was free. I just did the firmware update today. And so we'll definitely go through and have a bit of a look at that. It's not going to be anything like I don't want people saying, oh, you didn't cover it properly. I will do that on another video. There's people that have already done videos on it anyway. So I think the next level that we got to do is let's do sound design with it. So anyway, if you're new to the stream, it's really nice to have you as well. So what I would like to do first is do welcome the new people and make sure that they come into the chat and say hi and all that sort of stuff. But if you are new and you never watched the stream before because you couldn't find a better stream, well, I feel sorry for you, but we also have regular segments on here. And the first one is a bit of a silly one. So let's roll the stinger. Well, yes, unfortunately you have reached the end of the internet, and at the end of the internet there is really bad jokes, unfortunately, and this is where they start. So starting with this one, we have found the 80s, yes, knock knock, they're knocking on your door. Does anyone remember this? 8 megahertz CPUs, 4 megabytes of RAM, and some will remember the struggle. I think they might even be, can anyone identify that? That's actually a bit more modern, that DAW. It's definitely an Atari. But yeah,
it's Cubase.
That is definitely Cubase, isn't it?
Cubase on the Atari.
Yeah,
that's what I started with.
The struggle is real, people. I was there. I didn't have an Atari though. I had an Amiga, so it's not too bad. But
I'd love to have the Atari back. I really would. I understood how it worked, and it was rock solid. It never crashed. It was amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It did what it was supposed to do. It was really bang on. You just stuck your MIDI cables in and press play, and it was great. It was no hassle. Mm-hmm. Trying to get Cubase on my computer to send out MIDI properly, it drives me nuts. It really does. So I'd love to have an old ST again. I really would.
You should get one. They're floating around. But we'll keep going. And now, one of the things that happens with me is I do stumble across some weird music shops on the internet because I just search for things and I stumble across them. And geez, I don't know what country this was, but I happened to stumble across this music shop, and it had this as their banner at the top. Now look at the little look at that.
My focus in that picture.
This definitely wasn't an English shop, and that was the English. When you hit the English translation button, that's what came up. So it's nice to know that they're doing that sort of things with their synthesizers overseas. But that was pretty good. All right, and the last one, but never least, but there's always someone willing to do it cheaper, isn't there? Oh, geez. And who saw the video today? Did we all see the video today?
Yeah.
Which one was that?
Yeah.
The annoying one. Let's talk about something that we haven't actually made yet again, and let's make everyone guess. Yeah. But anyway, well, that's the end of Funny Side. I didn't want to bore you guys too much with it. Well, we do have some news. It's not a lot of news. I've already pretty much mentioned what the news is anyway, but let's roll the stinger and we'll go into the news and we'll talk about what's up. So the news has been, obviously, Superbooth is having their virtual thing right on at the moment. Now, one of the things about Superbooth, if you're into modular or Eurorack, it's a big time of the year for you. Yes, they do release a bit of it at NAMM and other times, but really Superbooth is the big one. And you'll notice that there's been a lot of videos with a lot of new Eurorack stuff, especially companies like Erica Synths. And that, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just leave that stuff alone for now, because I think everyone else is doing a really good job of showing all of that stuff out at the moment. And I think when Superbooth finishes, we could probably go back and do a quick summary of everything that sort of interested us the most. But in amongst all of that coolness, there was this little tiny company called Novation who happened to release this amazing wavetable editor for the Novation Peak and the Novation Summit. If you've got those synths, this is going to be huge if you're into sound design. And I'm going to go through this. I've actually got it sitting here on the computer next to me. We will go through it a little bit later. But this is big news for those who have got it. Now, for those who are thinking about buying a wavetable type synthesizer, this might be now maybe the trigger that you need to pull to get the Peak or the Summit. So this might have been something that you might have been sitting on the fence with. You might have thought to yourself, oh, shall I get a Korg, or shall I get something more beefy, you know? And this is actually Peak is quite inexpensive in terms of what it can do. And the fact that they've added this on here now, you'll see later on how good it is. So that's the first bit of news, which I thought was definitely worth going on with. And the second bit of news is just every couple of months or so, I do come across some pretty cool deals if you're into VSTs, and this one I thought was awesome. So there's a company called Muse Audio who've made this thing called Aquamarine. It's actually really cool when it comes to all those sort of ambient textures and stuff. Now, the cool news about this is at the moment you can get it for about $40 US, or $39.99 if you want to be precise. And there's a link in the description if you want to grab it. But I thought I'd show you guys quickly. Let me just get it. I've got a little demo of the video here. Let me just cue it up for you guys. And I need to change screens. Here we go. So I'm going to skip through a few things. We can have a listen.
You're muted.
Yeah, can't hear.
There we go. Here we go. You guys can check that out later. The reason why I like this is because there's 102 gigabytes worth of actual analog synths recorded, and they're not compressed. It's all completely uncompressed synths, and you actually get that. So that's a pretty amazing. It is a contact library, so you do have to have contact, unfortunately. But these days, a lot of people have got contact anyway. So anyway, that is the news. Let's get some reaction from the gentleman here. Anyone want a quick reaction from any of those two massive news items?
The Peak looks good. I must admit, that's one that I'm very keen on.
Yeah.
And I'm very tempted I've been tempted by the Peak for a while, but I'm probably going to wait a little while. But yeah, the Peak and Summit are very interesting since. I think that's interesting that they're doing all the wavetable stuff, because there's what's really coming out and doing that at the moment. There's you've got the Wave State, you've got the Nord Wave 2.
Yep.
What else is out there at the moment that's doing that? I think the
Hydrasynth.
The Hydrasynth work. Yeah.
Yep.
And they're probably the big ones. So it'd be interesting to see how it now stacks up compared to those, considering it's a bit older than those ones.
The sequential stuff. Yeah. So there's a bit, and we probably haven't even scratched the surface. There's definitely a lot out there. Darren or Andy, do you want to make a quick comment about any of those items?
Well, Darren.
Go on, Andy.
Right, Andy, you're up.
I'm not really been in the market for a polysynth for quite a while. I've got to my right here a Novation Supernova, which, in spite of all the abuse it's thrown at it and neglect, still works absolutely fine and sounds, to my ears, sounds great. But I'm not sure how long it will keep going. It's 20 years old now. So as and when, certainly the Peak is definitely something that I would be interested in. I think it just sounds fabulous. And that new sort of possibility of adding wavetables into something which is already great sound, and I think it's a top one from Novation. It's a win-win, that.
Absolutely. And Darren, what about yourself?
The Peak, I haven't got one. Will I get one? It won't be for a long time if I do, and there'll probably be something out by then. And the VST, I know it's contacty though, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know. I think I'd rather try making a lot of those sounds with all the kit now. I've got to sort of stop spending, so
yep.
Everything's got to be made.
Fair enough. That's awesome. All right, guys, there's one more segment we've got to get through, and that's the our price watch or any scams. I don't actually think I've got any scams this week, but we're definitely going to be talking about prices. So let's roll the stinger for that. Let me get them all queued up for you guys. I think it's quite topical this week with prices. So we are first going to be looking at this one that I came across. Unfortunately for me, these prices are in Australian dollars. Someone in the chat can convert. But this here I find this interesting. Now, the reason why I find this, it's not a scam. These are real. These are actually in really good condition too. I've checked out the listing. The seller is actually quite reputable. However, if you want to buy some original Moog gear, it might be a good time to get it. If you're one of those people that really is interested in the actual vintage stuff. I'm not talking about the Moog sound. I'm actually talking about the original gear that was made in the 70s or the memory Moogs and 80s synth. But I mean, look, you can get these two together. I don't know about the zebra wood thing, but someone's trying to spruce it up a little bit. I don't know, but 30,000 Australian dollars. Someone can convert that in the chat. That to me, the reason why I brought this up to chat about, I guess, a general discussion with you guys, is the Moog 1 has definitely sparked sales of memory Moogs on the market. And obviously there's plenty of Model D clones out now. So I'm starting to see more Model Ds as well, mini Moogs. So before we go on to the next one, it's going to be similar stuff, but I just thought I'd get a quick reaction from you guys. Have you guys have you guys been sort of scouring eBay synthesizer listings or anything like that? Have you noticed that there's been a bit of an influx with memory modes and Model D sales? No?
I haven't looked. Not at Moog. I was last looking at Roland W30s and that sort of thing, but I find it amazing how variable the prices are. But certainly, is that about 20,000 UK pounds for the pair?
Yeah, just under 18,000 pounds. Yeah, for the pair. That's pretty good.
You have to be a serious collector.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The memory mode won't keep working for more than 6 months before it conks out.
Oh, you'd have to repair it. Yeah, you'd have to repair it. But it'd probably be one of those synths that sit on the shelf that everyone comes into your studio and goes, "Oh my god, you've got a memory mode," and you just don't tell them it doesn't work.
Is this? Oh, I've dropped out, I think.
Oh, we can still hear you though. I can definitely hear you, Andrew. No? Oh, he's back. Yeah, he is. He's not hearing us. All right, we'll come back to Andrew in a sec.
Nope.
I'm definitely still streaming.
Default picture.
Oh, he's moving. Andrew.
Now.
Okay, did you want to say something quickly?
Yeah, I was going to say, with the memory Moog, is the stripe wood original, or is that actually something that they've done?
That's a mod, I think. That's like, yeah.
But again, so if you're looking at buying a historical product for the value and you wanted something that was, that sort of centerpiece that was original, would you buy the thing that had the striped wood?
Probably
I know
not.
that I probably, not for that price, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That seems to be why the price doesn't quite match what you'd want to be getting out of that.
Which is why it made it to my segment. So, going along the lines of that, does anyone ever remember this thing? The Voyetra.
Yes.
8-voice.
Yeah, new order used it quite a lot.
So that's Andy's mic just there. So I'll just have to quickly cut it out for a sec. That's all right. So the Voyetra 8-voice. Now this was a digital / hybrid type thing, wasn't it? I actually can't remember too much about it, but I do remember this thing being quite rare, and I do think New Order used it. Pretty sure I remember Bernard Sumner talking about using it in one of his tracks. So yeah, if you want to buy yourself an Octave Voyetra 8, there you go. You can get one for about, I don't know, 12,000 US dollars, somewhere around there. So we'll go to the next one. Now this is coming back into that sort of zone again, what I was talking about, where we are starting to see products come out on the market that have got clones now. And I don't think I can remember seeing a VP330 for a while. So this is one of the first ones I've seen, and moving with these sort of, I mean, that's a pretty decent price. That's about 3,000 US, so that's pretty good for a 1970 synth. But how about this one? System 100, because Behringer are about to release their System 100 modules now. So I reckon you'll start to see more of these. Now, like people like Giorgio Moroder and Harold Faltermeyer and all those sort of people did this sort of stuff, didn't they? So use the System 100 quite regularly. So there's another one. And this one is the one that I have been waiting on seeing come out. There's actually probably about 20 Art Odysseys floating around the world on Reverb and eBay at the moment that I found. There's probably even more than that. So these are the original. So this is a Mark 1. So these tend to get a little bit more than the Mark 2s, so just because they're the Mark 1s. The orange and black ones don't get quite as much, but yeah, because there's a Korg Odyssey and there's also now a Behringer Odyssey, I'm starting to sort of see more of these, and it's kind of just. What do you think, guys? There seems to be a little bit of a.
And it's future proofed.
Yeah, there seems to be a bit of evidence now showing. It hasn't happened with the SH101, which I do my price watch on, but it's definitely happening with some of the other gears. So anyway, I thought I'd bring that. I think they were interesting anyway. Nothing scammy this week, unfortunately. Scam ones always get a laugh. But yeah.
When he says future-proof, what does he mean?
Oh, that's the guy. He sells everything that he puts his stuff on. He always puts future-proof as a comment, and I think it just means that he's serviced it and.
Ah, right. I thought it stuck a USB in it or something.
It's probably got D-beam.
What the?
Wire.
Simon wants me to talk Scooper. What do you want to know, Simon, about the Scooper? I haven't got really anything set up this week for the Scooper. Sitting right here. I don't really have anything set up for it this week, but I do know you're interested in me talking about it. But you can ask me questions about it. What do you want to know? It's basically it's like a little sort of mini sample loop thing, and it has a scatter on it. It's okay. It's a bit gimmicky, to be honest. But yeah, I can sort of show that maybe next week or something, because we do have stuff that has already been pre-arranged. But it's nice to see anyone in the chat, that's for sure. Inverted Popes has popped in as well. It's good to see you. Do you guys see? I just didn't see if there was any questions that popped up while we were doing that. Let's have a quick look while we're here. Quick scan of any questions, anything about any of the prices. People are sort of agreeing and saying hi to each other. It's good. Awesome. All right. I think we'll go on to the next segment anyway. Cool. All right, let's have a look at... so what do you guys want to do first? Do you want to look at the Novation Peak, or do you want to look at the audio interfaces? So there's going to be people here that want to definitely look at audio interfaces. Should we get that one out of the way quickly, or should we do the Peak quickly?
It's your choice. I haven't got a Peak, so it makes no difference to me.
Okay. Let's do the Peak.
Yeah.
Let's do the Peak. All right, so there's my live screen on my Mac, and let's get the cursor running. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't really played with this very much. That's actually the sound out of the browser when you sample this thing. Okay, so, but what you can do is you can form your own shapes with your mouse. Okay, now you've got wave index, you've got 5 of them, and what happens in the Peak is you can actually modulate between, you can sort of go backwards and forwards like this on the Peak to modulate between your wave indexes. You've also got levels, so you can adjust levels down the bottom here. You can adjust phase. You can do all that manually. You can increase, decrease your grid size. And one thing that I haven't found that you can do yet is you can't copy a waveform from there to there. You can swap them around like that, but I haven't worked out how to copy one. There's no like copy, but that's one bad thing. But it does have this live edit feature. So if I hit that, I've got to turn the audio on. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Hey, Rans. Okay, turn the audio on. Can we hear it? All right. What else can we show you? What Live Edit does, by the way, is it will enable you to go in to your Peak and play what you're editing straight away. That's what that gives you. So you don't have to just sample it here in your browser. You can do it straight on the Peak. There are other tools. Now, this is the cool thing that I liked about it. See this little rocket ship down the bottom here? It's got this NASA sound browser. And if you hit that, you can actually import a whole bunch of NASA audio. Andy's little thing going again. I'll just mute you for a sec, Andy. I'll come back to you in a sec. Okay, so you've got solar system sounds, you've got rockets and so you can bring any of this stuff in. And
Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
So you can actually generate the waveform for that, or you can generate a whole wavetable from that. So now you've got, that's basically someone's voice. So you can do that, and you can also, so that's just something that's there. Obviously you can change your own waveforms here, and you can also import your own wave file as well through the import feature there. So this, like I said, this is just really a quick basic overview for you guys just to see. But just remember too, if you don't really know much about wavetable editing, this is going to be a really good beginner, like this is such a big GUI, it's so easy and intuitive to use. I like how they've got the keyboard down the bottom. I like how they've laid it out. For me, I feel that for someone who's new to doing wavetable, this is really going to help them understand how it works. And once you've got your wavetable designed, you've got 10 slots that you can put them on your peak. Now, that's just on your peak, right? You can keep as many as you like here in the components part of Novation, which is like a web browser. You can keep as many as you like here, but you can send, you can have up to 10, I think it shows there, yeah. So you've got 10 that you can actually put on the peak itself. Yeah, so that's just a real quick overview. Just remember, this is not really supposed to be me trying to sell the peak or anything like that, guys. It's just really just to show people if they haven't seen it yet. There are a couple of really good videos out there already. I do recommend Tim Showbridge, is that how you pronounce his name? Go check his video out. He's done a really good introduction to it. I might actually even link it in the description after I get a chance to this. He's a good fella too. Obviously, Kalk has done something as well with Novation. Novation guys are awesome, so there's definitely no complaints from me. Now, obviously, one other part of it that I didn't mention, just quickly, is that there's a whole bunch of new wavetable things from Noisia, so you can actually load those. So there's a whole bunch. And you can just play with these. And once you put them in your peak, don't forget you've got 8 voices in your peak, so it's polyphonic and everything. So anyway, that's a really, really quick overview of that. And I just thought it's kind of newsy. This is really just me playing with it for the first or second time today. I've only literally just updated the firmware of my peak, so excuse the very rawness of it. But I do hope you enjoyed a little bit of an insight to it. Who agrees that's actually pretty cool?
Yeah, that's very cool.
Did you have to have the peak?
Sorry? Darren?
Do you have to have the peak for that?
No, you can have a summit, but you have to either the summit or the peak.
No, that GUI, is that, that's like, it's like a soft synth, but is that just, you can only use it if you've got the peak?
Yeah, that's for the peak or the summit, yeah. Yeah. But, if you want to do something similar, you've got Pigments from Arturia. There's other wavetable VSTs that are out there. There's plenty, actually.
No, that's what I was meaning to see, because I've got Serum, or if you get Ableton 10, you've got the wavetable on there. So
yeah, exactly.
So that would negate you buying a peak unless you wanted the hardware, is what I meant.
Well, this is just one tiny little corner of the peak, isn't it? The peak, don't forget the peak is also a 3 oscillator hybrid. It's got analog filters on it as well. And it's got 8 voices. And then you've got the Summit, which is a double peak, basically. You've got 2 peaks in one. And there's a few other bells and whistles on the Summit as well. So, it's an FPGA oscillator type synth. That's the hybrid side. So, you can start getting in arguments about what's better, analog, digital. But this thing sounds very analog if you want it to, or it can sound very digital if you want it to. So that's the cool thing I like about it. You can definitely do FM, because you've got that wavetable editor there. You've got 5 levels, and you can have them all sine waves. You can start, manipulating your own FM style, with it if you want. So you can go crazy. But anyway, I think we'll leave it at that. Now, Any questions from the chatties, let us know. I think the next thing we need to do quickly is we just need to sort of talk briefly about this stuff, and that is audio interfaces. And it's something that people ask about all the time. Now, a lot of us here, we already know a lot about this stuff, okay? So we're not really, there's going to be some newbies here, but this is more for people who probably don't know a lot about. Maybe you might learn something, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. So the point of this is really just to sort of show people just the simplicity of audio interfaces and just to demystify it. So for example, in front of me, I've got a very cheap Behringer Xenix Q1002 USB. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, that looks like a mixer. Why is that in the audio interfaces? Well, it actually has a USB connection on the back, and believe it or not, that USB connection actually runs an audio interface, and I'll show you. It's connected to my Mac right now. There's Ableton running on the Mac, and if we bring up our audio input devices, and I change that, and you can see USB audio. So it's actually a class compliant USB audio interface, and you can see 2 in and 0 out. So it does take 2 inputs. So basically on the actual mixer itself, the master left and right will come in and you can actually record that. It's not bad when you think about how cheap that mixer is. So you won't get all the separate channels, but that's actually not bad. Like if you're just really looking at something just cheap and dirty, basically, that will probably get you out of jail. Now, that leads me down the garden path of mixers, because these days, most mixers are actually audio interfaces. A lot of people don't realize that. So behind it, you can see the Presonus Studio Live 1602. That's a Firewire mixer that I've used for years and years and years. And you can see, if I go back to my Mac, you can see that I've got that connected, and I've got 16 inputs that I can choose from as an audio source here. These are all my audio, so I can get that all in separately from a mixer. So you can go from real basic sort of Behringer style, just 2 inputs, to really kind of convoluted, even more than 16. 16 is actually not even that many today. You can go crazy, there's 30 plus now. So that's just another way of looking at audio interface. And I thought I'd start with that because I don't think people realize that a lot of mixers these days are actually audio interfaces. So that's the first one. The second one I wanted to show you is that there are a lot of products out there that do other things by their main purpose, but secondary to their main purpose, they actually become audio interfaces as well. So for example, this is an old Roland VT3, and on the back, it takes an input and it has an output, right? So you can run this as just a standalone audio device, but you can also plug this in, and as long as you've got, in this case, you need a driver for it. So in this case, if we unplug that and plug that in there, it's now turned on. And I may have to restart. Let's check anyway. Sometimes you have to restart. Interesting. Okay, so this is just for people who run Macs, but it's not really much different for Windows, to be honest. I'm just restarting my Mac, just to not the actual Mac, sorry. Am I restarting Ableton? Sorry. It's coming up. Interesting. I don't think I've installed the driver on this. Look, it doesn't really matter anyway. The point I'm trying to make in this case is that I can actually record digitally anything that comes out of this just through this USB cable. And you notice that it's actually even powered by the USB cable. So the whole thing, not only can I send MIDI and audio and power. So there's devices, what I'm saying is there's devices now that are audio interfaces that you may not actually realize that you've got, that you can use as an audio interface. So there's that one. Now, just to give you an example of how many there are lying around, there's plenty. So even if I was just to sort of quickly show you here in my studio, so the MPC Live is an audio interface. The Roland System 8 is an audio interface. So there's plenty. Obviously the MX1 mixer is an audio interface. So that's kind of, how convoluted this thing can get. So do you need to go and get an actual dedicated audio interface? Like, for example, the Arturia Audio Fuse. And the answer is, well, if you've got this other stuff lying around, maybe you don't. And it depends. How many channels do you want? You might have to go out and buy a dedicated audio interface. Like this one is the Roland Rubix 24, so it's 2 in and 4 out, I believe. Yeah, 2 in and 4 out. And this has got some cool features on it. Like it's got a loop back, and it's also got a ground lift on it too, which is good. And it's also got MIDI. So when you're looking at audio interfaces, are you starting to see some of the other benefits like MIDI, ground lift, loop back, things like that? This can run off USB power. So can that. So can this. This can't. So you've got to look at some of these features and whether that's important to you or not. And even if we look at USB audio interfaces, they go right back to like this one. I've had this one for years. Steinberg MI4, and it's actually 4 input, and I think it's 2 output or digital output as well. And it has USB and it has MIDI. And that thing's been around, what do you reckon, Andrew? Probably 20 years?
About that.
Probably about 20 years. So this stuff isn't rocket science, and it's not old. I'm just going to have a little pause there. Do you guys want to add anything to this discussion while we're at it? Any questions maybe?
Not really. There's a few questions going in the chats, but I think virtually everything these days is almost an audio interface in some respects, virtually now.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that people are looking for when it comes to audio interface? Are they looking for all those features like MIDI, USB powered, or are they now looking for things like low latency, USB-C, USB 3? What are they looking for? Or do they want it to be Thunderbolt or something like that? What do you think? What are some of the things that people are looking for at the moment? What are some of the things that people are frustrated with?
Tell you the one thing that I would always recommend with an interface is make sure it sounds good. Because some of these things, especially when they're not meant to be an audio interface, the DACs on them, or they're just, or the ADCs are just under par.
Yep. Yeah.
I end up getting that one, which is an R16, and I've also got an R24, and they're all right, but they've got no character, and so they're very, very clean and they're crisp and they're great, but they're not the same as. I don't think they're the same quality as the Audio Fuse or even your Roland. But they're handy because I can then take them out, and these are great because these are standalone as well as being an audio interface, and I can record 8 tracks at once on each unit. But that's why I grabbed it.
Yeah.
But it really comes. That's one thing I would say. The Behringers are great because they're cheap, but they just I would be very hesitant to say you'll get a good mix out of them.
Oh yeah, you're right there. They're very raw sounding. In some cases, very rough. Very rough. Yeah. Good example.
It's been going on in the chat about Behringer mixers versus Mackie mixers and stuff like that. And I've just got an analog Mackie mixer, which I've got to try and find a good interface for now. But the quality of the preamps and everything does make a big difference. And that'd be the only thing I'd say is make sure don't buy extra channels if you don't need them.
Yeah.
But certainly make sure something's got good sound, and don't buy what's cheap.
Simon brought up preamps in chat. Definitely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad he brought it up because that's actually what I was going to go to next. So one of the things that I wanted to mention is, Andrew touched on it, listen to your audio interface first before you buy it. Go and listen to it. Go find someone who's got one. Go listen to it in the store. Don't just buy it off of YouTube. And one of the things you should listen to inherently is the preamp and test the line level. Don't just test mics and stuff like that, and obviously test mics as well, but test guitars, line level, anything through it. Just give it a bit of a pace test, and then the preamp has to be something that can drive something enough to the point where you're comfortable that that's going to work with all the gear. There's nothing worse than having an audio interface that has weak preamps where you're not getting enough signal strength through it. That's probably the first thing. Now, 888 Berg mentioned, what about something that records audio without actually having a computer that is also an audio interface? There's plenty out there, and this is just an example of one that I've got here, and that's just my Zoom recorder, and obviously you can record onto SD card here, just in the slot there, but you can also plug this into your computer and it will actually appear as an audio interface as well. So there's plenty of those around, and there's also Zoom actually make mixers now, which are pretty good. Presonus make mixers as well that have USBs. There's actually a video on my channel of one that actually has an SD card recorder in it. There's plenty. I think the new Behringer one that they haven't quite released yet has got a inbuilt recording feature. In it as well. So everyone is talking about now brands and names and that. They're all saying, oh, I've heard so-and-so as being the best at this. And so let's talk a little bit about that, guys, because I think it's a good time to talk brands. So one that I see everywhere, everyone just about has either had one in the past or has currently got one, and that is the Focusrite Scarlett, the red audio interfaces. And the reason for it is they just get almost everyone just recommends it. Now, I actually had an 8-in, I think it was 8-in, 8-out or i8 or something. I can't remember the model, but it was 8 anyway. I actually ended up selling it because I don't know, there was things about it that I didn't like. There was latency in it. It was buggy. I don't know whether it was driver related, if it was to do with my Mac. I don't know. But anyway, I got rid of it. I ended up buying my Presonus mixer afterwards. Now, this was a long time ago. This was back in like 2014, so 6 years ago. So obviously things have changed back then. So there's nothing against Focusrite because the Scarletts are awesome. But people talk about Apollo as being, one of the Babyface RME stuff. So that usually, when people start talking about that sort of stuff, they usually are heading down the path of low latency, aren't they? That's that discussion. Low latency, quality of the preamps, and you're talking about big dollars. And usually, though, you're spending upwards of about £700-800 for a 2-input audio interface. That's a lot of money, In our money over here, we're well over 1,000 Australian dollars. So you've got to be pretty serious if that's what you only want 2 inputs for that sort of money. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I mean, I fancy something like an Apollo and everything, but I'm using the Scarletts. I mean, I've got an 8 for the PC, and I've even got a 2, just the 2.2 for the Mac. But yeah, it's I suppose really it is sort of how much you spend is pretty much what you get in a way.
Yeah. Andy, you were going to say, I just thought I'd bring you in as well.
I think it just depends on what your requirements are. I'm still fairly new to this game, or reintroducing myself to it, and anything that was complicated was just out of the question. So I ended up simply with a Steinberg UR22.
Yep.
Simply because it was Steinberg, and I was running Cubase. I thought Steinberg Cubase it'll work, and it's been great. It's just simple stereo in, stereo out, and I don't need any more than that at the moment.
Yeah, and they actually do have a good rap, the Steinbergs. This is like what you've got is a progression of models way down the tracks when this came out, but this was one of the earlier ones. So that's pretty much what you've got is the newer version of that.
I did buy quite a while ago. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that? Is that coming through?
Yes.
That's a Tascam. That's a Tascam, whatever model it is, and it worked on an old Windows 98 PC, and it worked on an XP. But once it went to Windows 7, it stopped working. None of the drivers worked, so that's why I had to get a new interface. So
fair
whenever
enough.
there's an upgrade in the computer technology, all your interfaces seem to just die and go by the wayside, even if they still work.
Some of them do, and some of them don't. But that's a really good point you raised there, Andy. I absolutely hear it all the time. Some interfaces will just cruise on through, and it won't matter whether you've had a Windows update or a Mac update or not. And some completely just break every single time. Like you can see musicians look at those messages that come on the computer saying, you've got a Windows update coming, or you've got a Mac update, and you're just like, I'm not doing it. It's just not worth it for me. I'm not going to do that update because everything's just going to break. So I think Focusrite had some dramas with that, and I think the newer ones are starting to address that. So you've got to kind of be up with the times. But I don't know, if you guys probably be interested to know what I'm using right now. So for example, this particular rig that I've got that does the live stream is a Presonus rack mount audio interface called a Studio 192. It's USB 3. Very good preamps. Probably not as good as like Apollo, but definitely, for the money that you spend, very good. And the other cool thing about it is I can run ADAT modules into it. I can run 2 ADAT modules into it, which gives me an extra 16 inputs if I need it. And I do have them here, but I don't need them at the moment. But if I do, they're there. And they're very cheap, those ADAT modules that you can plug into it. Now, the ones that you can get Presonus, or you can get the Behringer ones. The Behringer ones are pretty good. They've got Midas preamps in them, so they're decent even in that sense. If it was just Behringer preamps, you'd say no way. But because they have Midas preamps in them, they're good. So for my setup here that I do my live streaming on, it's a fairly decent system. Now, before I had that, though, I actually pulled that out of my rack, which is behind me. I used to run the Roland Rubik's 24, which you guys saw before, and I had all sorts of dramas with that. So, and that's exactly what you were talking about, Andy, where I would do Windows Update, and the thing would just break on me, and the problem with on Windows was it would switch between ASIO, because Windows has got 2 types of audio platforms. You've got the ASIO, and then you've got it's like a wave type audio system, which is not as good, and it would break the ASIO. And if you break ASIO, you're kind of losing all the benefits, and it was it was terrible. In Mac, you'd plug it into Mac and it would work fine, but you plug it into Windows, it just wouldn't show up. So it was interesting. So when people listen to us talking about this, we're talking about it from we're users. We are the ones that buy the product, and we're sitting here, we've gone through many, many audio interfaces over the years. These are the problems that we've come up with, and that's kind of exactly what I wanted to talk about on the stream. Not necessarily, which is the best, what have you got, that's kind of irrelevant. Like Andrew said before, the best is what you think and what you hear is the best. And then a little bit of research around that, like, is it going to break if you do Windows updates or Mac updates? How long has it been around for?
I'm just going to ask, is that Presonus one that you're talking about, is that class compliant?
Not really. No.
So it does require drivers.
Yeah, it's a high-end thing. So in this case, you actually get a virtual mixing application with it as well. And it's insanely good. I can even show you what it looks like. All the Presonus high-end gear has this. Where are we?
The other reason I ask is because that's probably one of the other things to always watch out with, and Andy brought this up too, is this whole idea of equipment that dies and stops working because it's been obsoleted by the actual underlying system. So sometimes if you just need something simple, making sure it's a class compliant device is a really good way to go for make sure that it lasts a long time. I got burnt a long time ago buying a Digi 002 when they first came out. And I learned a very hard lesson about spending a lot of money on equipment that doesn't last very long.
Yeah, what do we call that? Vaporware? It's kind of, that's a frustrating thing. And I think there's some good examples of that, like what Andy was saying before. Like, you buy something and before you know it, there's upgrade after upgrade after upgrade, and it just won't work. So yeah, but that depends. I believe there's musicians who just won't upgrade, and they'll like literally just keep their system as it is because they know it works. But they're going to end up in a situation eventually where they're going to be forced to upgrade. And there's people that are the opposite who constantly upgrade, and they're constantly on the tech support forums, or they're constantly sending emails to the manufacturers saying, "Oi, you guys need to fix this because it's broken, blah, blah, blah." And I tend to be on that side because I'm in the IT industry, and, a lot of the gear that I use is independent of Windows updates, really, or Mac updates, because it's standalone and it's sort of high-end gear. But when you're sort of relying, like even this Arturia Audio Fuse, I've had dramas with it. It's like, I don't know if you guys know much about it.
I'm not at all savvy. I'm not tech savvy. When I buy something, I just want it to work. I haven't got enough of my life left remaining to sit around waiting for tech support. I just haven't. So when I buy something, I want it to be straightforward and simply work out the box. I don't want to have to jump through 1,001 hoops just to get it to work.
It's definitely a good thing to say, but also I think there's a bit of awareness that people need to have as well. Like, if something breaks, it's not because the company that made that audio interface are crap and they're not very good at writing software or writing hardware. It's actually because there's so many players that aren't financially or communicating to each other. There's so many different people involved in the game of running your computer that you've got at your studio that are completely irrelevant to each other. So Microsoft might do an update, or Apple does an update. Though there's people that just don't talk to each other, and that update might break your audio interface, and then you're angry with, Focusrite, or you're angry with, Babyface, or whoever, right? But really, at the end of the day,
I'm usually angry with myself.
yeah,
because I've gone and done it. Why did you do that?
Yeah, that's it.
Can I give you a little insight to that? I actually had a chance to chat with some of those people a couple months back who are actually part of the operating systems, and they said, look, the problem with audio and audio producers is they make up such a small percentage of income for these operating systems that's why half the time they don't get the support that they need. So like the Catalina update that recently happened, and a few people are mentioning that in the chat. You had people, what we would consider big companies, who were just left out in the cold, who were literally scrabbling around trying to, working super long hours trying to fix things on the phone to the various, to Apple saying, please help us. And they just, they chatted, but there was bigger decisions being made because it affects a large group of people. And it's just not on the radar for a lot of the heads of these operating systems. So it's interesting, and that's unfortunately why big updates tend to break things, because they just don't consider audio as a major player.
Absolutely, yeah.
Even though we do.
Yeah, I think Michael B was mentioning the Catalina update, and he was saying the Steinberg works. And it's a big thing, isn't it? Like like that Catalina update has caused so many headaches because Apple have just said, nah, stuff it. We're going to make a rule. We're going to say nothing 32-bit will now work anymore. And if you update, of course, in Catalina. And it like had people scrambling like you wouldn't believe. Like I did a live stream just on the Catalina update and it was crazy. And I've still got people messaging me from the video that I did ages ago. Michael will remember it. And it was just, there's still, people that are refusing to update. So there's some good points in there, absolutely. And look, there's people that are still running old Macs, 2007 Macs. There's people I know personally. There's people that are running Windows XP machines. People, even like we were jokingly talking before about the Cubase running on the Atari. I know some guys that still run Ataris, and they swear by them. I feel sorry for them, but yeah, they've still got them, and they are pretty much, they won't touch their computer very much. So that's where they're at. They're pretty much just hardware guys. And usually those sort of blokes, they've got massive, huge recording consoles and they just don't touch computers. They don't need to. It's all outboard. But yeah. Just having a quick look at the guys in the chat. Just wanted to make sure we're not missing out on any some cool sort of comments there because they're really important, those people in the chat. And just don't want to leave them out in the lurch. But yeah, I just thought, it was a good topic. Someone asked me to talk about it and they didn't really sort of want me to specifically cover anything about audio interface. Just let's talk about it in general because it's a really big thing and it affects us all differently. It affects us all similarly as well. And I just think, personally, I have a certain route that I go with. And if people ask me, what should I do? 9 times out of 10, I'll tell people to buy, if they're getting into hardware, synths and gear, I'll tell people to buy like a mixer that is an audio interface. And then they get the best of both worlds. So there was a guy that's on this channel relatively frequently. He's called Dazza, and he had problems with his mixers, and he also had problems with his audio interfaces. And we solved that by, giving him a few options. And he decided, not because of what I said, but because of the options that we gave him, he decided to get a Roland MX1. And ever since he's done that, his music and everything that he's done has improved dramatically. So the sound quality, like you were saying, Andrew, the sound quality is improved. He's saying that he's got some learning curve with some of the issues with it, but that's fine. He'll get over that. But that is just classed him up a level, already, which is good. And that could be, you guys could be listening right now thinking to yourself, my snare sounds like shit. Maybe it's your audio interface. So, I don't know. Is there more than a handful of chipsets for converting audio on the market? Says Barramundi. Well, digital audio converters. There's quite a few. There's companies that have designed their own, like Yamaha, and they will never ever ever release the engineering specs to those to anyone. So, yeah, the answer is there's a heap, and there's some that are freely available for you to use. Like you can just go to DigiKey or Mauser and just choose Texas Instruments or whatever you want. There's plenty of them, but the question then is they're pretty generic. Are they going to be any good? And for us audio buffs, probably not is the answer. So if you're mucking around with Eurorack, for example, and you need to put a DAC in there, you're going to think to yourself, I'll just go to Mauser and I'll just go to Texas Instruments. She'll be right. Nope. It'll sound like a Behringer mixer. So there you go. You could always do what we used to do in the old days, which is use the old parallel port to make an 8-bit DAC. I don't know if anyone else remembers doing that, but it was grab the old Amiga. Get the old Amiga out.
A whole bunch of 220 ohm resistors and a resistor ladder, and you'd make your own 8-bit 22 kilohertz mono output.
I honestly don't think a lot of people would even know that you could do that. But yeah, I do remember doing that. Among other mods, that was one that we did. Yeah.
Things have come a long way.
We had to, because that's how we sampled stuff into the computer. So
that's right.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
I was going to say Finn just got some advice lately, so let's add that to the queue and see if that pops up here. Best advice I got lately was a 10 dB cut around 175 hertz to remove all the poo-poo from your master bus. It works in 80% of the cases. It's only when you need to work on the 20% of the cases that's when it is not working for you, mate. But no, that could be another question about the features of your audio interface. You know how Andrew, I was showing before the virtual mixer console.
Yes.
And the features in that, it's crazy. Like, do you need all these features? Well, some people say absolutely. Like, I've got gates, compressors, equalizers, limiters, all in there, and every single one of these analog inputs, and then on top of that, I can then also, you can see those SPDIF ADATs down the bottom here, and on top of that, I've also got virtual inputs as well. So, like, you can go absolutely crazy, and then on top of that, because it's a digital interface mixer, I can save scenes. So, for example, I could have a scene set up for my live streaming. And then if I want to go and start doing a jam session, I could go to a jam scene, and I've got hundreds of scenes that I can save. So that's actually a really important point too. Is if you move sliders or preamps and things like that, do you have to get them back? I want to get them back. So that might be something. What do you guys have in chat, like in terms of audio interfaces? Tell us what one you've got right now and whether you're happy with it. So tell us the make and the model, and after that say yes or no whether you're happy with it. Be brutally honest. Sing its praises or don't. There's going to be about a 10-second delay. So Andy was saying that he's got the Cubase one, the Steinberg one, which is doing him proud. And yeah, I've heard some good things. Darren has got the Scarlett. He's got two Scarletts, and he's also got an MX1.
And the MX.
Yeah. Andrew.
So it's the MX probably.
Yeah. Andrew, what did you say you have?
I have at the moment I've got the Zoom R16 and the R24 because the reason I have those is because I don't need to have them into the computer, and I can just record them like, it's like it's lazy man's door. And then I've got rubbish other than that isn't worth bringing up.
You've also got the montage as well.
Yeah, I got the montage as well, but I haven't used that as an actual audio interface yet.
Yep.
But yeah, apart from that, don't really have a lot.
And the Nord Wave is. Do you have the Nord Wave?
I got the original Wave.
Oh, that wouldn't have it. Okay, yeah. All right, let's have a look at what some of the chatties have said. So we've got Sonic has got a Focusrite 18i20 and he loves it, which is awesome. Michael B was talking before about his iRig, and you might remember he showed that on a stream a little while ago. So he loves his little iRig. Barramundi's got an RME, wow. FF800, I don't even know that model, but that's cool. 15 years ago and it's still going strong. Beautiful. And Finn's got a Behringer UMC 1820. They're very, very, very common. He's also got a 404, so he's got a second interface. A Zoom R8. He's got a whole bunch of other stuff. Axelsoft has got an MX1, and he's also got the Mod X. Axelsoft has also got the MC101, which technically is an audio interface, which he didn't mention. Inverted Popes has got a Mackie Pro FX12 V2, and also I can guarantee you that actually sounds very nice as well, because his recordings are good. So the Mackie's is a very nice interface. Inky's still running strong with her 404, her UMC 404, and that's done her well, that one. So yeah, there you go. So there's a really big mixed bag. Like, you can just see, just with all of us four here, and then 5 or 6 people in chat just mentioning what they were. just about most people have got something different. I think the only common thing there was the Roland MX1, wasn't it, Darren?
Yeah, probably. Well, it's because it's quite a cheap. It's a mixer and, like you say, an audio interface, which has got what? Is it 16 channels?
Yeah,
18. No, 18 because I've got
channels.
20.
Yeah. Well, 2 virtual, but 18 channels. Yeah. A few people have joined us, so big hello to Synth Jam, Sasquatch, and ATO Head. That looks like we've got the Sonic State, the stragglers. Yeah. From the after the Sonic State's obviously finished.
Someone asked for an Andy studio tour.
Well, it might be a good actually opportunity. Andy, you could introduce yourself a little bit more, maybe. Tell us a little bit about. I know you were talking to us pre-show about how you came back into music. So maybe if you could sort of tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I started with synths in the 1980s after a mate of mine came around and said, I was sick of listening to classical music as well. I was listening to this, and it was Ultravox. And I just fell in love with that straight away and went out and bought a synth. And I've been in it ever since. When the sort of 90s came around here in Sheffield, I got big into the sort of like techno scene here in Sheffield and started doing a lot, playing live. I used to take out all my gear and play live. I had a W30 sampler, a Pro 1, an SH101, drum machine, all going into an old Mackie mixer. I love affair with Mackies. And just set up in nightclubs and play. I used to love it. And then around 2004, I just fell out of love with the whole thing. The old mental issues. I know you did a series, a broadcast a few weeks ago about mental health in music. That was part of it. And then I just, for one reason, I decided to get back into it and sort of update my gear a little bit. I've still got a lot of the old boxes. I've not got the SH101 anymore. I've sold that when I bought the Supernova. But the current setup in here is I've got the Supernova, which is my controller keyboard and polysynth. Got 3 Volkers, the bass, keys, FM, Electride synth, and Electride sampler.
Wow.
I've got the Electride synth so that it will sequence the Volkers, the SH01A, the other stuff. I try to do it so that it's hardware driven. Down in front of me, I've also got the BeatStep Pro, which I'm learning to love. So it's taken a long time, but I'm really getting into that now.
That's cool.
One of the key bits of kit which I have is a MIDI patch bay. Everything goes into the patch bay and out of the patch bay, and I can switch anything to anything else, and it just makes life so much easier. So, and I'm just getting back into sort of noodling, jamming, playing tunes. And my latest toy, if I can get it down up here, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it?
Just if
you
stop. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Stop waggling it about. Yeah. I finally bought the Behringer Pro 1. If you can see behind me, there.
The sequential, yep.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. That's my original, very poorly sequential Pro 1.
Is it still working?
Which is in need of a lot. It makes sound. It's very noisy. It's got a horrible hum, and it needs a lot of work doing on it. So, in the meantime, I invested in that. And I have to say that Behringer Pro 1 sounds the business. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that you can get the Curtis chips again. So
yeah, if
you need to replace any Curtis chips, you're laughing. Oh, that's awesome, mate.
I wouldn't know where to start with mending it.
I'll come back to you. Just thought I'd ask you a question. So, in terms of like you were saying that you sort of had a break and you came back into it, and was around. You said it was around 2014. Did you say you came back into it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was kind of similar time to me. I think I was about a year before. So I did the same thing. I had a break as well, and it was actually pretty similar sort of. So we actually share that very similar. I sort of took a break around 20 2004, would probably 2005 maybe, and then 2013 I came back in, started making music again, and you were saying you had your reasons. My reasons were that I was just busy working. Work got in the way, and I just got to the point where I kind of missed it, and so I started buying gear again, and that's kind of how I got back into it. But what I wanted to ask you is, when you got back into it, kind of what was it that kind of inspired you to sort of start again? Because this is good for people.
I just wanted to start making music again. I loved playing live so much, and I realised I missed it. And I've done a couple of live performances since I got back into it, and I'd love to do more of that. It's funny because I know there are some people who hate playing live but love producing. I was the opposite. For me, the producing was like hard work, and going out and playing live was fun. I used to just love it. I really did. So, and when this lockdown is over, one of the things I'm going to do is get out there and try and get some gigs, because that's where my heart lies, I think.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, mate. That is really cool. And if you were to sort of perform live, what would you'd be taking a lot of gear with you, or what sort of setup would you have, do you think?
The last thing I did was I did a performance at the school where I work, and I basically just had the two Electrides, Supernova, and the W30, which I've had for years and years and years, and I borrowed an electronic piano the digital piano from school. So, and I just had it going into the mixer and just used that on my rather unsupported channel. There are some videos which I put up of that performance. You can sort of see the bits and bobs there. I love the Electrides for that, because in the olden days when I was using my Mackie, I used to use the mutes. I had everything coming in, and I used to build up the arrangements just using mutes on the desk.
Yeah.
Muted, unmuted. And you can do that on the Electride. It's easy to push the button and just hit pads, and it brings things in and out. A really intuitive way of performance of that, as well as sort of playing on the keyboard. Yeah, that was what I used. And I think in terms of going out doing the gig these days, I think a couple of Electrides and say like the SH-01A, that would just be brilliant. I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
So that's a post-lockdown project for me, to try and get some gigs in and around Sheffield if I can.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely will be linking your YouTube channel into the description, so whoever's watching, they can go check that out.
Not a vast on it yet. That's
all right. It's a little intro to you, and actually, I love how you mentioned Electrides too, because that is actually a couple of bits of gear that I kept. It kept me going all the way through when I had that sort of quiet period. Well, it's not really a quiet period; it's like 10 years, isn't it? And I had an ER1 and an EA1, so there were two really early model Electrides. I think they're the first models. And then I just kept them in a box and just looked after them. And then when I came back out in 2013, I brought them back out, in 2013. They were one of the first bits of gear that I brought back out and plugged in, and I had a micro Korg, and then before you know it, I was jamming again. And it was the Electride, do you know what I mean? So, and a lot of people don't like the new Electrode 2. I actually really like it. It's got
that's what I'm using.
It's got some quirkiness to it, but I really like it. It's really easy.
It sounds great. I bought the Electrode 2 second-hand, £200 from a music shop here in Sheffield, just to see if I might get on with it. And it was so quick and easy to make, dance tunes on it.
Yeah.
I actually thought, well, I'm going to try and make it do slow ambient. And once it started to do that and be and handle it and sound lovely, I thought, I like this box a lot. And for that reason, I then bought the sampler just after that. So,
I love the
of
sampler.
little bits into it. So and the two connect up beautifully. They work really well together.
Yeah.
They come highly recommended from me.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. It's also good to get to know, you as well. And, obviously we're more than happy to have you back as well. So, I mean, like, at the moment, you can't see your YouTube channel on the description because I haven't actually been able to put that on there. But after the show finishes, I'll edit the description of the show. And
I might not subscribe to it. Well, if I'm not, I should be. Anyway, I'll subscribe to it.
Yeah, you'll probably pick up a few subscribers after the show today, mate. If it's the least we can do for you. Anyway. Well,
you're only across the Pennines, aren't you?
He's not far.
Yeah, they're in Manchester, darling.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can always do something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, anyway, I think that's pretty much it for the show. I know, I've covered the topics of audio interfaces briefly. We showed that new Wavetable Editor, which is awesome fun. Tomorrow I'm going to be going and having a big play with that, get to know it a bit more. I don't really know it that well. I just showed the basics, and after watching a couple of YouTube videos, so that's probably why it wasn't that good a demo. But maybe I'll put a video out. I don't know. I don't really want to put videos out that other people have already done. I don't see the purpose of that unless they have done it badly or they haven't covered an area. That's probably where I'll come out with a video. But other than that, yeah. And I hope everyone enjoyed the show this week. We went pretty decent time, about an hour and a half. Yeah, about an hour and a half streaming. So I really enjoyed having Andy on, and obviously it's always awesome to have Andrew from the other side of Australia, which is getting very late over there. It's nearly 1 o'clock or after 1 o'clock in the morning for him. So we appreciate you staying up for us.
That's all right.
Now, before we go, I just wanted to give everyone a little heads up. Andrew and I, hopefully, if everything goes well, on Wednesday we'll be doing another midweek MIDI episode. And do we have a guest, Andrew? Does that been confirmed or not? We hope so.
Everything has. I've been told that yes, he's definitely coming, and I will be making sure that he remembers. But yes, look, I'm pretty sure I can announce it at this point.
Yeah.
So and on the condition that realizing this gentleman is actually a very busy person, but we're going to have a guest. It's a gentleman by the name of Athen Bilius, who is actually the current treasurer of the MMA and also the head of the TMA, which is the MIDI Association. And he also is I don't know his actual official title, but he's Yamaha, works for Yamaha as a product consultant, but has one of those many years history. Was the product manager of things like the M1 and those kinds of products as well. So and the motif and the montage as well. But he's going to probably come in and talk Mayer's MIDI month, and that'll be good. He can actually give us a better insight about what's actually been planned. And he might be able to answer some MMA questions as well if people are curious. But yeah, just come in for a short chat and talk to us about that. I think that's the plan.
I'm actually really looking forward to it. We had a blast last time, and actually we kind of did two things. We sort of decided to do the MIDI show again, and at the same time we also tested out some technology, and it actually paid off really, really well. So one of the things that Andrew and I were able to do was to get the caller side audio coming through a lot clearer and a lot more quality. So we can look at probably maybe doing a little bit more of that. I'm actually kind of excited about that as well. So yeah, awesome. Thanks everyone again, and also big thank you to our lovely chatties who absolutely make the channel and the show, and I really appreciate all of you taking time out on your busy Saturdays. Hope everyone has an awesome weekend, and on that note, say goodbye Darren, say goodbye Andrew and Andy. See you everyone.
I'll take care.
See you next time.